Hey guys, this is my podcast for the letter activity number 2. So the book I read was called Freakonomics. It was written by Stephen J. Levitt and Stephen Dubner. The genre for this book would be nonfiction, specifically for economics. Basically what this book does is it takes a few economic concepts that you would find regularly, like that an economist would find, and the authors, Stephen Levitt and Stephen Dubner, apply them to everyday, well, not really everyday situations, but they apply them to like just outrageous and random situations that a normal economist or journalist wouldn't think to do. For example, they talk about incentives and they compare incentives, they describe cheating with incentives, and their example is sumo wrestlers and how, like, sumo wrestlers allow one other to win, or each other to win, so that way they can, like, stay in, like, the elite group. They compared conventional wisdom to what everyone thinks, like, to what a typical opinion of a drug dealer is, and what a drug dealer actually is, or what they do outside of dealing drugs. So it's just a lot of outrageous kind of situations. Like, talks about correlation and causation with the names, like the list of names that I read. Like how some people think that some certain name leads to success. There was an example with this guy named Robert Lane. He named his first kid Loser Lane, or Winner Lane, and the second kid Loser Lane, anticipating that the first would be successful and the second would end up just like failing in life. But as it turns out, Winner Lane ended up getting arrested a bunch of times, whereas Loser Lane got a scholarship to college and then joined the police department and became a captain. So it just shows like how sometimes things don't turn out, like they don't cause what we think is going to happen. So I think that was a pretty good example. One of the things I really liked about this book was that it took something that for most people is extremely hard to understand. Like, when most people think of economics, unless you're trained to do so, you get really scared because you don't know what it is, you can't explain it, and you don't understand it. But the authors of this book, they took all of these concepts and all of these facts and they made it understandable, so that way the normal person could understand the basics of what causes, of what creates economics. So I think that was pretty cool. I really liked that about this book. It was, for an economics book, it was surprisingly very interesting. It was humorous, which is odd for a nonfiction book, and it was just easy to understand, which was very nice. One of the things I did about this book, it's very minor, but there's certain parts where the author goes into extreme detail explaining everything, like so in depth that you kind of just get lost. Like, it just becomes numbers and things, which is interesting. Like, I still really like that, but I didn't think it was good to hold, like, I mean, I enjoyed it, but to hold like a normal audience, like just a group of people, I don't think that doesn't make for an interesting read. But otherwise, I think the book was extremely good. I watched the movie. They made a movie of it, which was surprisingly very good. It just took the book and put it with pictures. But yeah, but that's all I really disliked about the book. As far as a recommendation for a specific audience goes, there's really no set audience. It's really just, I mean, of course, you can't give it to a kid and say, read this book, because they're not going to understand half the words in it. But I don't think it applies really to any specific audience, just the audience. It just applies to the group of people that actually have the desire to learn about what economics really is. Because if you don't want to learn what it is, the book's not going to make sense. It's going to be boring. Just like if you don't want to if you don't want to read the book, it's not going to be interesting. So yeah, there's not really a specific audience. But yeah, I think the book was really good. As far as content goes, my favorite part, my favorite part of the book was the names for kids part, having to do with correlation and causation. Like I said, there was a kid there was a dad who named his kid winner and loser. There was this woman, she wanted to name her child after the actress on the Cosby Show, Tempest Bledsoe, because she thought that would make her daughter like more successful. But the lady thought the name was Temptress, so she named her child Temptress, not knowing what that actually meant, which is worse. And then her daughter ended up going to juvie, so that kind of sucks for her, I guess. So yeah. But I really liked that part of the book because it was just like interesting because like they had the list of the 10 most common names, 10 most common ways to spell Jasmine, and then 10 most common ways to spell unique, and then just like the most common names per like group of people. So I thought, as far as just like content goes, I think that was my most favorite part because it was pretty funny. I think the most eye-opening part to me was the conventional wisdom part of the book, because it made you really question how experts and how just like people who you think know what they're talking about, it makes you question whether or not they really do know what they're talking about, or if they do know what they're talking about and they're trying to give you false information for their benefit. It kind of makes you wonder, are they just stupid, or are they just trying to profit off the information that they know is wrong? So I think that was eye-opening, because it really makes you think twice about how our society works overall. But I think the most important part, like the most basic theme of this, not really theme, but like that created all the rest of the concepts, was incentives. I think it's very important because after reading this book, I kind of realized that incentives are not just part of economics. They're part of everything. Like, it's the reason that we decide to cut our hair, how we get it cut, it's the reason that we choose what we want to wear, it's the reason that we take a job, it's the reason why we do everything. Incentives pretty much drive every single decision you'll ever make, and you don't really realize it, but you always have a reason for making a decision, and that reason for making the decision, whether it be a reward or something, is your incentive. So I think it's just kind of interesting to see how they drive everyday life. So yeah, that's about it. Like I said, this book was really good. I watched the movie. I'm going to read the sequel. It's called Super Freakonomics. But I would highly recommend it. It was a great book. It was very interesting. It was funny, which it was just surprising for an economics book. But yeah, it was good. So I guess that's all I have to say. Bye.